Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Being the 25th film in the James Bond 007 franchise and Daniel Craig's final outing as the lead character, I was super excited to see this movie for a few reasons. Before I review this movie though, I wanted to dedicate this movie and my review to my Uncle Lee, who introduced me to James Bond when I was only 10 years old, sharing his huge love for the franchise with me every time I went over to his house. The first Bond film he introduced me to was Skyfall, and I instantly fell in love with everything to do with James Bond. That opening prologue in Skyfall always got the same reaction out of him. The first Bond movie I ever saw in a cinema was with him when we saw Spectre together. I'll admit that I wolf whistled when Léa Seydoux came out in that stunning red dress on the train, but my auntie mistook that as my uncle who made the whistle and gave him a bloody good slap on the arm. His defense was, "It wasn't me," and pointed directly in my direction. Boy, did I get the biggest glare of my life after that one. However, not long after seeing Spectre, my Uncle Lee passed away. Now 6 years later, the 25th Bond movie is finally out, and I don't get to see it with him. I love and miss him so much, but I know that he was there in that cinema yesterday watching the movie with me. Thank you, Uncle Lee, for introducing me to these movies. I think of you any time I watch one. Rest in peace. This is Kia's Reviews, and this is my review of No Time to Die. No Time to Die was the first movie to be affected and delayed by COVID-19 all the way back in March of 2020, mere weeks before its early April release. It's now November 2021 and it's finally out, and it was damn worth the wait. As a massive Bond fan, this film delivered everything in a perfectly thought out story, style, and direction. This wasn't at all the film I was expecting to see, so it kept me in the dark for the entire runtime, making its incredible twists and reveals so much more of a surprise. It goes without saying that Daniel Craig's era of movies are the strongest in the franchise, and I think that's got to do with the fact that his story arc continuously is moving forward throughout each film. And for this to be his fifth and final outing, there could not have been a better way for him to wrap up the role. A lot of people have asked me whether it's necessary to watch the previous films before this. I would suggest rewatching Casino Royale and Spectre, especially if you're wanting to see this, because there are large aspects of the story that you definitely won't understand without the knowledge of at least those two predecessors.
Don't.
What is it?
James, you don't know what this is. Don't make me do this. Please.
All right, open the doors.
Open the door.
Open it. Where are you going?
Home.
What I love so much about No Time to Die was that it departed from what Spectre was all about in relation to the frequency of its action sequences. This was more of a story based on tension rather than explosions or good fight scenes, which it still has plenty of, but I found that characters like Safine, Rami Malek's character, and Madeleine Swann, portrayed by Léa Seydoux, always had something off about them the entire time, and the increasing tension through the nearly 3-hour runtime only added to the mystery behind each and every character, including them. There are many story arcs in No Time to Die, but it's a movie that is able to balance them all without any plot point being unnecessary or not intertwined to the larger picture. The cast member that surprised me the most was Léa Seydoux, as her arc was magnificent and unexpected. I felt like she added so much more to this movie, given that aside from Bond, there was nobody you felt like you could trust. In Spectre, Bond forgot about cutting himself off from everyone around him, but in this he reacquainted himself with that belief, and then made the audience feel like they couldn't trust anybody either. It was beautifully done. This is the Bond film that was made for fans. It felt like Avengers Endgame, but for fans of 007. You had every single iconic character dating back nearly 60 years ago, like M, Moneypenny, Q, Felix Leiter, Blofeld, etc. Everything about this wasn't just for fan service, but to tell an ever-evolving story that kept everything action-packed and heaps of fun, but also quite emotional at times. Even though the movie is heavily reliant on dialogue, the stunts and action sequences were as incredible as any of the previous Daniel Craig Bond films. It still has those exciting popcorn moments where you get so involved with all of the action, but I loved that this took more of an approach like Skyfall did. Every character has something to give to the story, and that didn't overcomplicate the movie, but kept that theme of trust running through your head and questions needing to be answered. I'm so glad that all of these questions were summed up properly, because most blockbusters rush their endings or leave plot holes, which ends up reducing the quality of the movie that they built up the entire time.
You should be able to see the chemical plant architecture.
Which one's Bond?
He's the Psy, he's the Trident thingy.
Give us a layout.
Right. You're at the edge of a toxic merry-go-round. The main activity should be towards the central hub, which is directly above you.
The music score by Hans Zimmer sent shivers down my spine, as he was so spot on with every piece of music he composed for different scenes. He really knew what he was doing, and his music only elevated the experience and made it even better. Billie Eilish's Bond song was so fitting for this movie, more fitting than I originally thought. I was a smidge disappointed in the visuals that accompanied it, but when you have Adele's Skyfall at the top, it proved to be an unattainable achievement thus far. I love Billie, but Adele still has the greatest Bond theme ever. However, even though I had a beaming smile on my face through Billie's song, that wasn't the number one highlight for me. Ana de Armas, even though her time in the movie is brief, stood out as the most exciting and memorable sequence in the entire film. She was perfect as a Bond girl, and I want to see more of her hopefully in future Bond films. Sometimes minimal characters stay in the series with different 007 actors, most notably Judi Dench as M with Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig, so I really hope that the next era of Bond really takes advantage of who I think to be the most perfect Bond girl of all time. I also would have liked a bit more of her in that dress, because damn, she was hot, woo! For me, No Time to Die just didn't reach the exceptional heights of Skyfall or Casino Royale because of a few minor critiques that I had. For a film with a runtime of 2 hours and 45 minutes to have every single scene captivating and feeling like it needed to be there in order to further progress the story was insane. However, scenes here and there were sometimes a little stretched out, specifically in the first act due to it setting up each and every different arc, which is fair enough. My only other issue was with Rami Malek's Safin, given that he had very little screen time. For a movie that is basing its marketing off of the fact that Rami would be the main villain, the overbearing villain in Blofeld made the film feel as if he was still the main antagonist following Spectre, instead of introducing a brand new villain. What Rami makes up for in the third act is his intensity and brilliant monologues. He's not a villain that fights Bond physically, but he intricately messes with Bond's mind specifically in the final act. By getting that kind of performance from Rami, it introduced a vulnerable side of Bond, suddenly unaware of all of these secrets that have been kept from him. That added to my enjoyment of Daniel Craig's arc, especially in the final movie he's in.
People want oblivion, and a few of us are born to build it for them. So here I am, their invisible god, sneaking under their skin.
You know that history isn't kind to those who play God.
No Time to Die is everything a die-hard Bond fan like me could have wanted and more. It was the perfect way for Daniel Craig to finish up his era of Bond movies too. The experience of seeing this on the big screen is an opportunity not to be passed up. You have to see this film even if you're not a fan of the franchise. It holds a heavily packed story that isn't overwhelming but just adds more to the plot in order to produce a well thought out narrative. It's emotional, full of action and unexpected twists. It also has brilliant music composition by Hans Zimmer, incredible performances, an intense atmosphere, and a great pace for this long of a runtime. Even though I have my very small critiques, I consider this to be a perfect James Bond movie. Uncle Lee, you would have loved this. I'm giving No Time to Die a 10 out of 10, and this is going in the masterpiece section. Thank you all so much for watching. Are you going to see No Time to Die? Let me know below. As always, be sure to have a look at my ranking of all of the previous James Bond films, as well as having a look at my previous movie review of Eternals. This has been Kia's Reviews, signing off for now.
Don't forget to like, follow, and obey.